actors drinking coffee and talking
Mm,
about voiceover.
mhm.
It is good to
Ah,
see everyone. Happy Tuesday. Hope your
yeah.
week is off to a great start. As always, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Follow us, follow us. And as always, too, make sure you leave a comment in the chat as well as tell us where you're from. Maybe if you have questions, all that jazz. We have to tell people again that after a while as people come in
Yeah.
because
It's okay.
we get starting off.
Listen,
So
listen, we're voice actors. We
we're
repeat
voice
ourselves all
actors.
the time.
We
It's
roll with the
fine. We're
punches.
used to it.
So on a side note, Gabby, I want to tell you a
Yeah.
phenomenon that I see is going on, kind of serious
Phenomenon.
for a moment, and
Okay.
it's it kind of goes under the realm of scams. And I'm
Oh,
trying to determine because I think and you'll understand this as coaches, we get to a lot of people come to us from different different voice actors,
for
and
sure.
they share with us things. So as coaches, we get to sometimes see patterns
Yeah. Yeah,
where
for sure.
other voice actors don't because they're not necessary. They don't get that kind of bombardment from a variety of different voice actors.
Sure.
So I'm starting to see a couple of patterns going on, and I don't know because the scary thing is they're pretty darn good. Like they're getting more legit.
Oh.
So and I think AI has play a part in this. But basically, what's happening is a lot of voice actors who are either very new or seasoned, either one, starting to get emails from legitimate websites, right? With names. However, the names sometimes are verifiable on the website, sometimes are not.
Okay.
However, the there is no we cannot figure out how these people find, like you can't figure out how they find you.
Okay.
There's occasional misspellings, but the idea is that there's a constant ask for a lot of things, recordings, whether it's your samples, whether it's you recording then recording auditions, and
Huh.
then what's the red flags to me are is that I'm seeing a lot of people getting emails, including myself. I've gotten them that that don't typically either have a barely known website or have and then they're jobs that are high paying jobs
Oh.
that are, and then they ask like crazy things like let's just we'll have a directed session and pay you all thousands of dollars. It happened to me the other day. I was messaging you about something that I got,
Mm.
and it just I'm starting to see this a variety of other places. Like, hey, look, I got this job, or hey, look, I got this offer, or hey, look, I got this, and then you go to these people's websites, and it's just very strange to me because we're getting a lot of these. I'm seeing a lot of people getting these emails that have never gotten this stuff
Yeah.
before from places that could legitimately be something,
But if
right?
it's
But
not, what do
but
you
if
think
it's not
the end game
so,
is?
so what I'm telling these people is, and we have to play this out. I think what you said as well, but I guess the reason why it's a red flag is
Hmm.
because I'm seeing it happening multiple places, and it just doesn't make sense. Like they never tell you how he found you. They never tell you, sometimes they'll,
Mm.
and I've seen them like this is interesting. They'll quibble about budget. So like I had another one where another person will be like, "Oh, I was hoping for a discount." Like you start to see these patterns of people saying the same things, right?
Huh.
And then willing to pay then extreme prices, right? Without even knowing you or knowing you exist and asking for things where if they found you, like if they found your website, it would be on your website. It's just interesting.
Sure.
So I'm just telling these people at this point, right? So always remember, make sure, right, you have a contract.
Mm-hmm.
And like Gabby said, when you are first time working with someone who you have no idea, they got to give you they got to either give you a credit card or they got to
Yeah.
pay you something up front.
Yeah.
Not all of it, but something, because it's just what we live in, and
Hmm.
I hate that we live in that world. But even me, with how much I'm out there and everything I do, I don't get a ton. I do sometimes, but I don't get a ton of people just finding me and reaching out to me
Yeah, like,
without me soliciting at all.
right. That is definitely the strange factor, but I'm curious to see, like, are the talents submitting auditions for these
No,
things? Or is it not even
so
getting that
they,
far?
yes, they are. Well, no, they are. So basically, you'll get an email, right, that looks very legit. Like
Mm,
they have and they have a real. It's from a real place,
right.
right, and they'll have a name. Again, for the most part, the names aren't on the website. It's other people's names. Okay, so that's always if you go and find the red flag. But sometimes you can't find because there's not put their names on the website, so you don't know.
Right.
But like there was one where it was like concierge, like it was, and it wasn't an agent, but it was a coach, and then they but from this website, an active voice acting coach, but then it was Celia. I don't know if you know that person, Celia, but anyways,
Yeah, Celia Siegel.
yeah, does they have a concierge? So
Kinda.
so
Kinda,
like a
yeah.
concierge. So that was an interesting email that someone got, but it was what was it? Okay, well no, I mean that was the email. So
Aw.
maybe I don't know if that's oh yeah, yeah. And they always want your WhatsApp.
Oh, yeah.
They always want
Oh,
your
yeah.
WhatsApp.
So WhatsApp is a definite. Anytime I've seen WhatsApp in anything related to voiceover, that's a scam. Yeah.
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 Now,
Hmm.
and so now if you've had prior work with someone or you've done something with them and then they're sending something and that's
It's different.
and that's expect like
Yeah,
it, that's different.
it
But
is.
it's like the
Yeah.
ones that but I've noticed all of them, they always like the ones that always ask for WhatsApp, that's a big no-no.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I wouldn't trust that at all.
you know,
Um,
and yeah, and then another pattern I've seen recently is where we're looking for US accents. The
hmm.
US because I've seen it a variety of different places from different places what randomly look and then you go to the company and it's a US company.
Uh,
It's like okay, well,
that's a little weird.
I don't know.
Wild.
It's our so I
Wild.
guess to make sure you're fine, those you have to have just those things because there'll be some times where it is legitimate, and we have to understand too that some
Mhm.
people will be using like ChatGPT and these things as well to write better emails, or at least they think so. It might come across generic, even though but they're doing they're trying to make their emails better, right? Like a lot of people are
Mhm.
using professionals are using that.
Yeah.
And so you have to consider that. But I think the contract, as well as now, here's the thing: if they are one of those people who come back and say to you, "Hey, I, our company doesn't do that. Like we pay 30 days
Mm.
after," so then you got a choice, right? I think your
Mm.
choice is: do you, as a business owner, does your business deal with those people, or not? You know what I mean? That's a hard.
I'm gonna be honest though, I've never, ever had an issue with even if a company is like, hey, our vendor policy is this many days, there's always still things that are gonna take place. One is they're gonna ask for a W-9. A W-9 is always
Yes.
proof to me that you're gonna get paid.
Right. Right.
Um, and the other
That's a good
is
point.
yeah, because if somebody
That's a
doesn't
good
ask
point.
you for a W-9 and it's over $1,000, you
Hmm.
gotta go, "What?" Like,
Right.
why
Right. Right.
they have to legally ask for that. So
And if they're willing to just move ahead without
mhm.
doing any sort of like paperwork or any of that stuff, and they're
Yeah,
ready to just let's just record it,
it's just
and we're
weird.
gonna pay you $1,000. That's I mean, who does? I mean, who? I would never do that. We would
No,
never do that.
no, and then the other thing is, I have never, ever had issue getting a credit card to hold, ever. I mean, I may have, that person go, "Hey, absolutely, like before you charge this, you have to like if anything happens, you've got to tell me." And I'm like, "Yeah, for sure." I'm like, but I'm like, this is a case of delinquency. Like that's the only way this is going to get used.
Mhm. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah,
Super
it's
interesting.
definitely it's just something to keep your eyes on, and that's why sometimes things might be legit,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you have to but sometimes it just I'm just seeing a lot more it just seems random to me that people are starting to get all these emails. Again, we would like to think we've arrived and our stuff is cutting through,
Mm,
and people are just randomly finding us and sending us emails. But I
yeah,
mean, oh, well, Gabby,
we
how many
still have
email
to
how
be
many
savvy.
random people reach out to you and just go for the, like, let's just do a project and it's going to be this much, and that they don't, there's no,
No,
like,
no,
paperwork or anything
not
like
for
that.
people I don't know.
Right.
No, that's just not a normal situation.
No.
Wow.
And it's hard because no matter what, we want it to be real. And that's how that you want it
Of
to be
course
real.
we do. But like, I also look at it this way. Like I'm having some work done at my I'm always having work done at my house. I feel like it's a never ending.
Oh God, yeah.
But like my contractor right now, like every little change or anything we make to the plan or to the pricing or to any, he has to send me an updated service contract. And each time, like we've gone back and forth, there's been numerous emails, numerous, things that I have to initial or sign or just acknowledge receipt of because that's them covering their butt, sure, but it's also them making sure that they are going to get paid in the long run.
Right.
And I mean, this is
Yes.
all standard stuff.
Hmm.
We should not be the exception to the rule. Sometimes you got to put your actor brain on a shelf and put your business brain in.
Oh yeah. No doubt. No doubt. Well, anyway,
We do
sorry
have
everybody.
fun
I had that was going on. I wanted to share.
hijacking the topic.
I know. Real quick, we'll get Tracy said, is W-9 the same as 1099? No,
No.
they're not the same. They're both tax related, of course, but think of one is like a W-9, right, is our identification that we fill out as a contractor, and a 1099 is going to be what you as a business owner would fill out working for like hiring contractors, right?
But they are connected in
Yes,
the
right.
sense
They are
that,
connected.
yes,
Yes.
a company needs a W-9 to be able to issue
The
you a
1099.
1099 later.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep. Good question. All right. So sorry about all that hyper. I'm just like, what is going? And again, why I prefaced all this was, if you start to you see patterns and people messaging you, it just
Yeah.
seems like something's up.
Yeah.
Something's up. Even though what's more scary about the whole thing is if they're not legit, because remember, you can set up, but I don't know how they. I still don't know how are people getting email addresses that are linked to the account of that, unless the whole website is fraudulent, but you can find some of them that are not fraudulent, so I don't know how that's, so I don't know. I really don't know. I can tell you what's interesting recently. Have you been getting the new calls where, like, so for a while when the spam, then they were able to get local numbers, but
Hmm.
it still said something like a local, but there was not a name. But
Right.
now they have names. Have you been
Yeah.
getting those? Now they're
Yeah.
names of people too. They're
Yeah. I
used like
still
in all
don't.
caps or something.
Yeah. I don't answer any of them.
Like what? But
I
because they
let
don't
everything
even.
go to
I'm like,
voicemail.
how
Yeah.
did that? Now they've
Yeah.
got names.
Yeah. The laws keep changing and they're not being protected the way they were. So that's part of what's going on. Um, John made a really funny comment. He said, "Careful if you get unsolicited cans of unlabeled meat products sent to you in the post, don't open it. It's spam." Thanks for that, John.
Oh.
Thank you.
All right. So we were supposed to be talking about today before I hijacked it.
Yeah.
We were yesterday. We talked about hobo forts,
Mm,
and today we were expanding on that, on materials
yeah.
and
Let's go to a slightly higher end category, perhaps.
yes,
I think yesterday
yes,
we talked about all the budget friendly
right.
options. I'm
The
also gonna
starter stuff.
but I'm also gonna throw a couple of wild cards at you in today's stuff. So neoprene. Neoprene is often talked about in the building of sound spaces because it's a dampening material and it
Mm,
helps to absorb shock,
mm,
right? That's its big thing. It's a shock absorber. So, to get rid of ground rumble, to get rid of interference environmentally, a lot of places talk about using neoprene. Fun fact, hockey pucks are neoprene and they're cheap. And a lot of
Interesting.
people, yep, a lot of people build their booth or build their space on a little platform of hockey pucks. Yeah.
Really?
Hmm. Yep.
That's
It's a
interesting.
fun little trick.
Because you could,
Like a
because they
little,
usually come in
like a
rolls,
subfloor.
right?
Yeah.
Like they usually come in thin rolls.
Yeah.
All right, but I didn't know hockey
Yeah.
pucks
Hockey
were
pucks. Yeah.
interesting.
And you can also get, there's also yoga mats. There's also like the play mats
Right.
that we were talking about yesterday, like the kids' play mats that you see in like gyms and nursery schools, things like that. Those are
Yes.
kind of effective.
Yeah.
But oh gosh, there's so many brand name products.
Hmm.
Well, let's see.
Well, while you're thinking, so I know for me, when I had finally a space that I could put something that wasn't, a super tight space.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I go to that I've done that you can do is you can order this off of Amazon, and it's sheets of Owens Corning. Is it 703? I don't know what the number
I
is.
believe so.
Yeah, but basically they come in rigid sheets as well. You
Mm.
get them in 2 inch thick or 4 inch thick, and it's usually like two by or it's usually like 4 by 6 or 4 by 8 sheets, and they'll come and they send them right to your door through them, and it's insulation,
Yep.
and you can put them. So when I first got my Whisper Room, what I did was, well, first I bought the package from Whisper Room. Don't do that. That did not work out.
Mm.
I love the Whisper Room itself, but not
Yeah.
the acoustical
Yeah.
packages they sell. So what you could do though is I put 4 inches thick of Owens Corning and on both sides, right? And what's interesting about it too is because it sticks. It's even stick to the Velcro. I mean, like to the Velcro, but it stick to the fuzzy of the wall.
Yeah.
And then I took just a material, right, and you drape it over it, and that literally will take care of all your needs. Because as a Deber voice, 4 inches thick. If you go by that modicum, 4 inches thick, you'll always like that covers your stuff. You can use the same with rock wool, like
Yes.
rock wool
Rockwell's
sound
the other
dampening
one.
stuff.
Hmm.
But and I'm sure you can get rigid sheets for that. But you can buy that from Lowe's or Home Depot as well. And sometimes they have Owens Corning there, but they don't typically have the sheets, the rigid
No.
sheets. So
Uh,
it's
When
yeah,
you cut it, or when you cut it to
yes.
size, is it still basically fiberglass on the interior? Do you
Yeah,
need to
so
be
you do want,
hazmat
as
enough?
always, you want to wear
Yeah.
gloves, all right? Maybe a mask,
Yeah.
and I had gotten one of those little, couple dollar, knives cutter. I mean, that just had rigid edges on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, it will irritate your skin and
Hmm.
stuff when you're dealing with it because they are fiberglass. It
Yeah.
is fiberglass.
It's a
So,
wild thing that like 90% of acoustic treatment material is made out of fiberglass.
yes,
It's
yes.
crazy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Um,
So
yeah.
yeah, so that material. So what I have in my booth now is not Owens Corning, but is Rockwool,
Hmm.
and it was put up because by the people who built it, put it in.
Yeah.
But that was now some of them don't have as they're not as irritating anymore as they used to be,
Yeah.
but some of them, but the Owens Corning was
Yeah.
was
If
irritating.
you're working with the
It'll
raw
give you a little
stuff,
rash
yeah, it's
and
gonna
stuff
be.
on there.
And
Yeah.
keep your pets away from it. Keep your kids
Yes.
away from it.
Yes. Yes.
At
Yes.
least
Yes.
until you have it covered and all that.
Mm-hmm.
The other big brand names you hear all the time, Oralex.
Oh,
Oralex is the big
Orlex,
one. Oh my God.
expensive X.
So, oh, yeah. Oralex foam is forget Cadillac, right? It's the
The Bentley.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
you're
Bentley.
right. Yeah, it's the Bentley of
Hmm.
acoustic foam. And I gotta be honest, mm, there's some really good knockoffs out there. And there's some really good versions
Oh yeah.
that you can get on Amazon for a whole hell of a lot cheaper.
Hmm.
If you should you stumble upon some Oralex used or secondhand, I mean, by all means, but I don't think the expense in going out and buying it is necessary. I will say, fun fact, keep an eye out on places like Facebook Marketplace
Yes.
and OfferUp and if like the next door buy sell trade area, because it is remarkable how many times you can find somebody who was a musician who had a studio and
Hmm.
has either a bunch of extra acoustic foam that they're not using or they're taking it down.
Mm.
And I mean cheap. Like I've had, situations where people are like, yeah, you can fill a truck with what I had. Just come get it. Like, give me $200 and get it out of here. It's like, okay.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah. So that's those, but yeah, acoustic treatment, I don't think has to be the name brand. I will say though, Rockwool and Corning, those are the only two. You don't
Those
hear
are
anybody
pretty
else
the
talk
go-to
to.
ones that
Yeah.
you.
Green glue is another
Mhm.
name we hear a lot as a construction material to put a booth together yourself. Because green glue is, again, I think there's like a neoprene component to it that's supposed to help with sound absorption and dampening.
I did want to point out something. So, if you're interested in this, I got interested in the soundproof rooms. The what are the chambers? Uh,
Oh,
well, anyways, they're the places where you go and where it's supposed to be, the
yeah, yeah,
quietest places on
yeah,
earth,
yeah, yeah,
where there's no echo, there's no sound, and you can
yeah.
supposedly go nuts if you're in there too long because it's so quiet. But
Right.
anyways, the reason why I bring it up is because I know you can see my thing, but the idea of those spaces, right, is that they have these long pieces like this, like you could see a Mac, these ridges, right, these triangle
Mhm.
ridges, but they're very long. Theirs is long, like a couple feet long, and the idea is that when the sound goes in, right, it will bounce back and forth and
Mhm.
dissipate as it gets closer in,
Yep.
and right, so I thought, well, these chamber, like why wouldn't we try to recreate that something ourselves, right? With having these foam pieces, right, that we have access to, like these that you see
Yeah.
on my back. So that was the theory I had. And I think it actually does work. However, I was unprepared for how expensive they do get the larger you get them. So
Hmm.
the ones like you see here that you can get like a pack of 48 for like $30 or 40 or something like that, they're like 1 inch.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? 1 inch. You know what I mean? You can get the 2 inch, they're a little bit more for 2 inch. But once you get 3 to 4 inches, it's like you can get two
Yes.
for 20 or $30.
Yes.
Not 30 or 40, right?
Hmm.
And they become very expensive. Now they work I mean, that, like, in my mind, if I had four, like if you had those and you had a whole room of 4 inches on those thick, that's phenomenal. But it would cost you a small fortune.
Yeah.
So, but I'm just saying, look at some of these what is it? It's called, I can't remember what it's called, but it is something chamber ISO, I don't remember, but
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about,
I
right?
do know what you're
So
talking
yeah,
about.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So but the idea is there, because there is like alternative things. Like I've seen people, those ones where they have the blocks and they're in all different sizes. Some come out longer,
I
some
have
come
some of
out
those.
short.
Yeah, yeah,
Right,
yeah. I
right.
have
So
some of
those are
those.
like dampening, right, or something like
Hmm.
that they call.
Hmm.
Just because all the different
Diffusers.
angles. I saw the craziest thing one time. Someone built. They took cardboard, okay, and they basically made all of these, like, you could call them hanging chimes with
Hmm.
all these different angles of cardboard throughout a
Hmm.
room, and it was one of the quietest spaces they'd ever created. It's interesting, the material, and
Here's what's wild, because we talk a lot about how solid is bad, right? Solid state is bad. A lot of these things are made out of wood.
right, that's
Because
right,
you
that's
get the
right.
warmth from the acoustics, but if you have all different pieces of wood that are cut in different lengths and you're making this sort of grid pattern, it will effectively do the same thing to trap the sound.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely right. Timothy nailed it. An anechoic chamber, that's what it's called. Thank you, Timothy. Yeah, yeah, anechoic chamber.
So we've got a fascinating group with us today. John's in the UK,
Yeah,
where it's 1 a.m. He's talking about staying with us for the live class today.
good lord.
Lots of coffee, John. Lots of
Yes,
coffee.
yes.
We've got Professor Tracy with us in Rochester, Minnesota. And oh, Edwin is in my
Edwin
neck of
from
the woods.
Charlotte.
Edwin, I'm in Charlotte.
Good to see you.
And you're in Sumter right now. Why? Why, friend? Why? Oh dear, Sumter. Oh boy. And yeah, let's see. We've got James with us.
That's a good
Yeah,
point, and that's a
Timothy.
good point, Dylan.
Mhm.
It is one of those things too, where the smaller space you have, when you do think, if you have 4 inches on both sides, that's 8 inches.
Mm,
right? So I mean, that's you're taking up a lot of space in a booth if it's small, right? Like if
yes.
it's so that is you do also have to think about the space that you have as well. So well, listen, everybody, thank you guys so much for being with us today. We really appreciate it. And I most likely I will be here tomorrow.
I will not, unfortunately.
Gabby will not be.
No.
No. But we will stay strong and keep going, and we'll see Gabby back on Thursday. All right, everybody, you have a good one. Talk to you
Bye,
later.
everybody.
Goodbye. Goodbye.